Hey friends, Brian again here from Truck Rant. Never edit it and always record it right here in my truck. Today I want to talk about the killing of an Iranian Mussolini. Soleimani was responsible for, and these are facts, 608 American soldiers killed on his watch. Hundreds of thousands of his own people or people of the region. 1,500 recent protesters. And up to about 2 weeks ago, an American contractor. And anyone or any news outlet that turns around and says anything positive about this person is speaking directly from the Iranian propaganda mouth. In fact, this guy was so evil that the people that his subordinates below him were afraid of him. I mean, he didn't hold back on anything, and that's why he held power. You know, it's very hard in a regime that rules with an iron fist to stay on top for 10 years, because usually what happens is the meanest, baddest, most reckless general or individual rises to the top. It's, dog eat dog. And the fact that in 30 plus years there was no one that could out scumbag this guy means that he was just bad to the bone. And it drives me nuts when I see that MSNBC and CNN try to make it like we just walked onto the playground and picked a fight one day. They use their headlines without even people that still watch those channels having to watch as a way to push opinion. And because of the attention span of a lot of liberal Americans, they don't wait for the whole story. It's that trigger. And I think if opinion was no longer the news, and the news was the news, we would find out that what happened the other day is a massive success, not for the United States, but for the world. This guy was not afraid of anyone. I mean, he landed in the Baghdad airport knowing that we had 5,000, troops within 100 miles. And on that same road that he was taking, had blown up and put IEDs and sabotaged so many American transport vehicles that it only seems fitting that we blew his ass into a million pieces right there. And it wasn't Trump who labeled this guy a terrorist. In fact, Obama had labeled him a terrorist. And the UN had come together and said this guy was a terrorist. And the other day I'm reading something about that this valiant general who gave his life for the people of Iran and was, basically illegally attacked or assassinated. To that same rhetoric on an American news organizations like the New York Times, which still today's day pretends the Holocaust never existed. I don't know why anyone in their right mind would visit that website or buy that rag. But the simple truth is that, they are putting out these articles that literally sound like propaganda for the Iranian government. And folks, these are the people that are supposed to be reporting facts and news to American citizens. It's disgraceful. In fact, if you can actually stomach watching CNN or MSNBC for an hour, I pray that you spend some time maybe going elsewhere for information and merging it together and seeing which makes more sense. Because usually the thing that right off the bat your instinct tells you, nah, there's not something out right there. There usually is something wrong, right? We all have that intuition. And I mean, we saw last night with the retaliation, without even confirming, CNN starts showing images of the surface-to-air missiles that Iran had set off in response to the killing of one of the most evil people ever born. And other news stations, they held off to first make sure that this video really was video of what was going on, but really to build up a story worth reporting. I mean, they weren't shooting from the hip, and CNN had instantly cut to a reporter there who had no information whatsoever other than what he probably had saw 15 seconds earlier on their live feed or through his earpiece, had heard from the director, and they just were blabbing away about it. And Tehran then released a video saying, they didn't release, but they actually went live on their television saying that they had killed 80 Americans, blown up drones, taken out missile batteries. I was just waiting for CNN to even report that. In fact, I honestly think that they would have hoped that these missiles or devices of war had killed American troops, or even troops from Iraq or other nations, or even the people that are working on the bases. So we know today, digesting this 12 hours later, that this retaliation was probably a all about nothing. That and I don't know if they have the capability to miss the targets, but they weren't dialed into precision. Almost like a fireworks show. And this is what we're dealing with here. And I don't think we should do anything at this point. I think this is a win for the president. But I think the fact that for the next 48 hours, all we're going to hear about is this poor country ruled by terrorism and proxies of terrorists, and $150 billion given by the previous administration. We're going to hear all this sorrow for them and XYZ, and meanwhile 40 people and hundreds more, 40 got killed, hundreds got hurt, attending the funeral for this POS, that it just shows that, to them life doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. And, I hope that people see that this was the right thing to do, that he got what he deserved. The president made the right decision. And I don't see this escalating on our part. I think it's going to have to play out in the streets of Iran for a couple of days to see if we see another retaliation like this. And I wouldn't call it a retaliation because we didn't pick this fight. They picked this fight, and they were going to try to further push this fight because this is Iran's way of trying to get the United States and our allies out of the Iraqi region by buying up the votes of the politicians and painting us as a threat to the people that we set free and liberated over the last 2 decades. So be happy that your president was smart enough, strong enough and quick enough to respond when he did, because that opportunity wasn't going to repeat itself. And that's my truck rant for the day. Thanks for tuning in.